Google Meet limitation 100
YouTube pe this is all these things are live on
yes,
YouTube.
yes, yes. So all other participants they can uh,
Watch
live
this, yes, on
on the
YouTube.
YouTube.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, because the limitation.
Sir, actually.
Uh,
So it's taking sometimes the settings are not.
Shit.
Yeah, for Zoom, I know that how to do that, but typically Google,
But see, right now we don't have I mean, paid version of Zoom, and the limitation in Zoom is only 40 minutes.
hmm,
So to deal with such a high number of participants on Zoom, that's why we prefer this
yeah.
Google Meet. Or one thing,
So I allowed, but still it's not allowing
sir,
me to
in that
share.
case, let me check whether I am able to share my screen or not, so that if it is possible, I'll take your presentation, then I'll share
Hmm.
this. Just, fine, fine. So from my side, it is presenting. So you, sir, if you feel like you can send me on WhatsApp
Hmm.
so that I'll share from this side.
Yeah, the
Or
file is
you
very
just
large, but let
try.
me try.
In that case, it would be difficult. In fact, I have removed one person as well so that one place is vacant. At present, 99 participants are there.
Oh, okay.
I intentionally remove one person. This type of technical issue comes
this
several
is
times.
only
Maybe.
drawback with the online.
Yes, yes.
All the we have to afford.
So let me upload it to the link and then I'll share the link with you.
Then fine. From Drive, I'll run it. No issue. Aditya, meanwhile, if you wish, you can change the layout of Google Meet from Spotlight to Trail, because on live,
Sure, sir.
So I have some cold and cough, so it's a little bit not doing best. So should I share the link right here, like in the chat here? Can you download from here? So it's in the chat. So I share the link with the chat.
Sir, yes, I have received the link. Just give me a second. Just give me a second. I hope link is visible to all.
Yes, if you can make it, yeah.
Yes, yes. I have. It is about to come.
Yes, sir, visible.
So slides are not coming now.
Just a minute, sir. Just a minute. My sir, I think now is it coming, sir?
It is still coming.
Coming.
It's coming now?
Now
Fine.
it is coming. Now it is coming.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful.
Okay. So now I think you have to change the slides, right? Right. So 'cause I cannot change the slide from here.
Sir, are you able to change the slide or not?
I am not able to.
But I have made you the presenter.
Okay. Now I can do that. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if you change or I change, but let's start.
Uh,
So Even if you are not able to change now, I'll change from this side.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not able to change. So, well, let's start.
Okay.
So
You just
thanks
start,
again.
I'll
So
change.
that's what
I'll
we
change.
change
Okay.
it from your
No
end.
problem.
There's
No
no issue.
problem. No problem.
All right. So thanks again, and sorry about technology glitch that resulted into
No,
a
no,
few
it's all
minutes.
right, sir.
Yeah. So let's go to the next slide, and so this is something that this is all around us, right? Critical infrastructure. It's either water or electricity or your cell phone with communication. Those are critical infrastructure that supports us, right? You see the energy being in the central, which means that any other infrastructure, either it's transportation or healthcare or water or your cell phone communication, will not survive if there is no power. So energy is, kind of driving all the other, because without power, the other infrastructure will not survive. So, it's very clear that power engineering, which is driving other infrastructure, is very, very important. And now, if we get to go to the next, and then next. So energy is central, and energy is being operated by this control center. So maybe some of you have been already been there. Um, and if you look at different desk in the control center for the power grid, they are looking at a lot of these screens, and these screens are basically bringing data from from different places. So for example, in India, there is a POSOCO which just changed its name, and that's a national level operation, grid operation. And then there is this regional level grid operation. So there they call it load dispatch center. And what they do is that they bring all the data from all the transmission line, all the generation, and all the substations, and then they decide that is everything is good. Everything is good means that frequency is good, voltage is good, because all of your appliances at home, whether it's light bulb to any washing machine, they are designed for a certain voltage and current and frequency. So frequency and voltage becomes very important because that's what it's rated for, and we need to produce that through the grid. So they are monitoring frequency here, they're monitoring exchange on the transmission line, they're monitoring the voltage, and then making sure that if it's not good, that what can be done to fix it. So every operator at each desk is focusing on one task. One is only focusing on frequency, one is focusing on renewable energy integration, one is focusing on just keeping the voltage up, and one is focusing on frequency. To operate the grid all alone, it's not possible. So they only need to focus on one task, because it's very challenging just to do one thing, right? Now, if you go to next slide, can you go to the next slide? Yeah. So these and then keep going, next and next. So all of these news that is coming, it is causing a lot of problems for the grid, cyber attack. And it has happened multiple places. So which resulted into the power outages. For example, in Ukraine. So with Russian, cyber attack on Ukraine, which happened, 3 to 4 times, 2015, 2016, and just now last year. And each of them, especially in 15 and 16, resulted into the power outage. So, right, so keep going next. Yeah, just keep going next. Yeah. So then the next thing becomes that what we can do about it. So if you can go next, the first thing is that we have to understand the problem. Second thing is develop some tools. Of course, there are more things to do, but understand digital devices which is helping support operating the grid, and those are cyber threats, and then understanding the risk, which means that how does threats will result into the impact on the grid, and then what kind of tools I can develop which will help operators to do better, and then test bed, which is basically to not only validate these tools but also train the operators to do better, right? So we go to next now. So now we'll talk about each of these, one by one. So yeah, so we go to next. So first one is understanding the challenge, right? So if we go to next. So risk and threat and vulnerabilities. So any cyber attack is going to happen because there is vulnerabilities. If it does not exist, the attack will not happen. Which in other way, if there is a in the system, then only cyber attack can happen. And and if it's not connected to anything else, like it's not connected to it's not network, then that vulnerability will not travel to another system. So that's the first thing, vulnerabilities. Now, sometimes vulnerabilities are known and sometimes vulnerabilities are unknown. If it's known, then it's called CVE, cyber vulnerability exposure, which is already researched by different community and put in the public database. And then if vulnerability is not known, it's called zero-day vulnerability, which means that attacker knew before operators and before defender. An attacker utilized that for zero-day vulnerabilities because it's zero-day, which means that no one knew about that other than attacker. And then the threat is basically that how this vulnerability will be utilized, which will adversely impact the grid operation, right? So threat, and then the impact, which is not only the impact at that time, but also in the series of events that will happen because of that attack. So if you think about it, it's vulnerability which will become into threat to the system, and not all vulnerability will become threat. So any device which is connected to the rest of the device will pose bigger threat compared to one device which is only connected one substation and not connected to at all any big generation or big transmission line. It's only connected to one small solar. So the threat is small, right? And then the impact is that how it will propagate to the system. So over the year, if you look at, like, let's say, almost like 16, 18 years before, threat were less, right? But now threat is more. Vulnerability were more at that time because we did not know it. Impact was less because it was less connected system. Now impact is more because it's more connected system, right? So if you go to next slide. So understanding cyber attack, and there is a lot here. First thing is that any cyber system that we're talking about, which is helping to operate the grid, it includes software, hardware, and networking devices. An attack is not possible if a practical vulnerability does not exist. So vulnerability has to exist for attack. Then attacker may embed malicious code or data within digital images, So the attack to utilize that vulnerabilities, the threat can be in any form. Either it comes in a digital image, or audio files, or even text file or Excel file attached to email, and that's how that gets installed, right? Other thing is that hackers may, actually assist in fortifying the security rather than maliciously exploiting weaknesses. So, which means that there are good hackers and there are bad hackers. Bad hackers is of course malicious, and the good hackers are the one which is vulnerabilities and then telling them and getting paid for that. So every good, sometime they also have hackers in their team as a grid operator because they are trying to find that do they have vulnerabilities. Now education is very important. So now cyber attack or cyber impact is like a life skill, right? Just like swimming and driving and other kind of things. Why? Because you have a bank account, you have a all your digital ID, and if that get compromised, it's a problem. So cybersecurity education is now needed for everyone, and unfortunately, all the attack that happens, 95% is from human error, and almost 75% start with an email, which we use, every day, right? And if there is not attack happening, it's just because and what they will get in return, which is could be jail or something. So that's why we are infrastructure, but we need to make attack, around the world. Which is probably already should be known to you, that weak passwords make almost 80% of the hacking related breaches. So we should be very careful. And then the connected IoT devices, right now in the world, which is the first step, which is not much secure because it's not even owned by a grid operator, or more than 75 billion expected by 2025, which is just next year. So if you go to next slide. So now let's talk about a couple of different in 2017, which is called fish tank hack, and which will be very surprising for you that a small fish tank, how it can be a starting point of a cyber attack. Now, what happened that this casino in Las Vegas was, wanted to be make their devices more connected and monitor that this fish tank was actually large. So they wanted to make sure that fish are safe and temperature is maintained good. If you know that Las Vegas in summer gets very hot. So, and also they wanted to measure that how clean the water is because there are a lot of fish. This is a big one, so it might get dirty, and then instead of monitoring it manually, if you do it through digital sensor, we have a casino which is some of those casinos are very very large. It's as large as the whole campus of HBTI. So that could be that large, and several thousand people can stay in their hotels. So to make that not do things manually, they they put this sensor and brought the data to a control center of that casino, and because they had this and this has vulnerabilities, this networking and devices that they put here, the computer chip. So that's how attacker started with this phishing tag because it was not secure. And from there, they were able to get to their control center, and that resulted into a several $1 million loss to that casino. Other one was 2019 in England, and this is called a wishing attack. which is vice phishing. So what happened here that basically a criminal, which is cyber attacker, they used voice generated AI software to imitate like a boss of a German company and that owns a UK based energy firm. So the criminal called the UK CEO, which of course is the UK CEO has a boss in Germany because German company is the one which owns the whole group of company, and tricked him into basically said that send me this $243,000 to a supplier in Hungary, and they did it once, and then they try to do it again, second time, and this time UK CEO was a little bit surprised because he just sent it. So why two times he's asking on the phone, and then he reported for check and called back German boss and then figure out that he has been tricked. So vice phishing is again is real. If you get a call for asking for something which is your dad and your mom voice, don't believe it. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Some more, which was more fun, like a fern. So in 2014, San Francisco, someone just got into the traffic signal system and put on a road that Godzilla attack turned back. And so which means that if someone can do this fun, then it's really can be attacked too, right? For changing the lights. Then another one was in 2019, when French authorities found 5 different people who basically did the attack on the gas pump and stole more than 25,000 gallons of fuel by hacking it remotely. So that can happen again, and because the password was default, which was 0000. So again, this should be taken very seriously because this default password also exists in the power grid a lot. Okay, so we can go to next one. So this is actually a video. If you can play it, just click on that. It should play it. Yeah. So
When I'm clicking now, it is going to next slide.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. So that video was actually showing that how a grid operator has hired, hackers that go and hack my substation. And that utility is actually in Illinois. That's where not too far I got my PhD there. And attacker was hired, more like a hacker, so as an ethical hacker or a good hacker, so that they can tell that your substation is not safe, and that's how they were, and they were able to get in, even though utility thought that's very safe. Hackers got into the system and of course did not cause any problem because that was not their objective, that was not they were paid for. But within the 24 hours, they hacked into the system. So now, if that can happen, then next thing is that thinking about that, what is cyber resiliency, right? So resiliency is all about that even if you get hacked, how do you survive, right? Because you can never make it 100% secure. So that does not mean that we don't focus on security. You have to still make it as much as possible secure, but trying for 100% is possibly not possible because 97%, 99%, if you can get there with some cost saving, then you focus on if it get hacked still, then how do I survive, right? So that's what is cyber resiliency. So now vulnerability resulting into this high impact, we have to choose that where to focus our money and effort, right? So the one which is like the high impact one, and that we need to find out through simulation and through some kind of analysis, that should be of course prioritized. So if some digital devices is connected with small solar, that's not our priority. The sum which is powering the substation with generating unit of 100 megawatt, that is our priority, because if that goes down, it's a big problem for the grid. So we need to prioritize. And then the data security and system security is of course important, but IT security, which is typically your computer security, is very different than OT security. In IT security, you can send the patch, you can fix things even after detecting, and you can quarantine. In OT security, that's not possible, and the data that is being used is also different. So OT security is different than IT security, and of course it impacts safety. So that's another thing. In IT security, it does not relate to the safety, but here your generator can actually burn, your transformer can be a problem in the sense that it can blow up. So safety becomes more problem in OT because it's tied with the physical system, while your computer is not tied with any physical system. There is no infrastructure being run by your computer. And sometimes, we see a lot of examples of those. So like Stuxnet that happened in Iran in nuclear, Aurora attack, which if you just try on YouTube, Aurora attack, on generator, you'll get that, that where one generator was basically burned by a cyber attack. OT system, of course, follow a certain standard, and network traffic analyzer is more important because you need to find it as soon as possible. While in IT, your focus is more on device level. Cybersecurity plan and creating it, and policy and metric is of course important. And then we have to minimize the risk, which is a kind of second step for cyber resilient grid. And after the first vulnerability analysis and prioritizing it. All the method that we use in IT, like access control, continuous monitoring, all these are important too. And then comes the data should be how to utilize, and we have to do some kind of continuous monitoring, which will also keeping in mind that computational cost should be low. So we can go to the next slide. So this is very interesting because we just went through the COVID, and we wrote one paper where we analyzed that what is the similarity, because if you think about that, for computer virus you need a host, right, which is a digital device. For COVID virus you need a host, which is basically a human body or animal body. You could be asymptotic versus symptomatic disease, just like vulnerability is known and 0-day vulnerabilities. Or if you are compromised, it may not do anything that you can detect it. So that will be asymptotic. Just how the COVID virus will go from one human to another human or to the animal, same thing will happen here, from one digital device to another digital device based on that how the network is connected. So there is a lot of similarity, and that means that we can learn from each other, right? Of course, there is a big difference. That's a biological system, which means that it's not man-made system. While here in the in the OT world, it is a man-made system. So we do have a more control compared to the infectious disease ecology. But it was very interesting because we worked with two doctors to write this paper. So we can go to the next one. So just a little bit more about that, that how the attachment happened and how the reconnaissance happened in attack propagation, how the penetration happened, how the weaponize happened. intracellular trafficking, delivery. So all of these, of course, came after a lot of discussion with medical doctor expertise and ours, including the final one, which is how do we act on object. Okay, next slide. Now this is very complex. Probably you cannot see it in much detail, but there has been effort where MITRE and several other agencies has tried to get everything for that how the attack happens into one framework, and the one which is very supposed to be very complete. So MITRE is basically a national lab here in the US, and it has a multiple different branches, and this is how the vulnerability will be found to all the way that how it will be controlled with command and control. This is again only about the attack. It's not telling you about different steps you can take to fix the problem. So it is only telling you about that how the attack happened and where it can attach itself in different places. So you can actually go and find the MITRE attack framework, and this is all public. So you should be able to find a lot of information on that by just doing a Google search. So next slide. So now let me talk about second part, and then I'll talk about third. So yeah, so go ahead. So next part, next slide. So first thing that I started thinking, that was like 10 years before, when the attack was increasing, that how do I know that how resilient I am to a cyber attack? Which means that, for example, when we, like get a, like let's say cold virus, right? So sometime we get sick and sometime we don't, right? So like right now I have cold and cough. But a lot of time I don't get sick. Even my kids get sick. So which means that there is a virus at home, but I am not getting sick. Which means I'm more resilient to that. I can fight those viruses. And sometimes I don't. So it depends on the overload and how resilient I am, right? So same thing, even if I get compromised by a virus, which is of course I'm talking about cyber attack or malware, then how do I know that how how much I will survive? And when I say how much I will survive, I need to measure it. And survive means what? For the power grid, survive means continue supplying the power load, right? Because that's the ultimate goal for the power grid. We already have that concept in power grid, like reliability, right? That how reliable is the power grid. But resiliency is something else. When you are under a hurricane and when you are under cyber attack, when you are under a snowstorm, when you are so earthquake, you can talk about a lot of different events which reliability will not tell you, but resiliency will. So we worked on that, and we wrote different books. So I wrote on one cyber resiliency, which is a textbook, and then the next one just came last November, another book, which is about resiliency too. And what is important here is that resiliency depends on multiple different things, like how and we are talking about the biggest man-made machine ever, which is a power grid, right? And then the cyber system, which is supporting it. So the control, networking, resources, which is generation power, all of these will decide that what is the resiliency. So I cannot go into detail of these because it takes a lot of time. But we wrote more than 100 papers on this and 2 books. That how do I measure resiliency? And that will tell me that where I should put my money. If I need to put to make it more resilient, what do I do, right? So if you go to next. So that resulted into a lot of different tools. So we developed some tools for utility industry, using all these fundamental approaches for looking at the control, networking, graph theory, decision-making process for cyber, and also for weather event. For a weather event, I'm not talking about today, only focusing on cyber. So cyber, we developed Canvas. There is a video on YouTube, you can see it. And then Cypher, which was more about military microgrid. We helped US Army. And then CPSAM, which is security assessment metric, more focused on distribution system. And then there's a TRAM, CP TRAM, which is more focused on transmission resiliency metric. And the new one that we are working on now is a distribution system with IoT. And that's another tool which is still in progress. So I'm going to talk about that one because it's more recent work. So next slide. So power system with IoT, first thing we find that there's no definition. There's no standard definition in literature that what is power system IoT. If you look at IoT, it should have some computation power. It should have a unique IP address. It should be plug and play, and should have some autonomous, right? So we started applying that to the power IoT, and then we find that HVAC controller, if it's a digital, it is IoT. Your solar PV is IoT, battery storage is IoT, electric vehicle is IoT. And then we defined those definition, and then how do I quantify? If you go to next. So then we started working on this project. So we worked with MIT and Princeton to look at how do I define the resiliency metric for power grid with IoT. And just like any other work, it starts with first modeling and creating a data, because cyber attack is something that we cannot do an experiment with real system. For cyber attack, you need to imitate a like a digital twin and do like that. So we started with that and generated this model which is integrated in physical system, which is GridLab-D, and then we also model the cyber system in Mininet. So if you go to next. So first thing we did is that, because IoT is not owned by a power grid operators, it is owned by, like EV will be owned by EV owner, right? HVAC is of course in house, so someone living in the house will own that. So how do you trust that? And if you trust that, then how much? So we developed this trustability score looking at a lot of different data, and mainly digital data, right? So if you go to next. So what we did is that we developed this machine learning architecture, which is basically collecting the data and learning the relation between input and output, which is using autoencoder. You can actually predict that what will be expected, right? So without cyber attack, if you take the input and convert into encoded data and then encoded data back to the same input data, which is recomputed, if you find a difference, it should not be much, because you are reproducing the same data that is going as an input in autoencoder. And then using that, if there's a cyber attack, then of course this match will be not there. So based on that, I can now say that there's something wrong. I mean, I don't know it's a cyber attack, but there's something wrong. And then I can look at the network data, right? And then I can look at digital data. So this is about the data that is shown in the table. And then I can confirm that this is a cyber attack, or there is some problem in the cyber sensor, right? So based on that, we developed this IoT device trustability score. So if you go to next, if we go to next, so then what we did is that based on the I2 trustability score, actually last slide was showing some equation for that. So we got a number, I2 trustability score. And the next one is resiliency metric formulation at the primary level. So if you think about primary, is basically multiple houses connected to a transformer. So at that level, we want a resiliency score. So if you click next, so what we did is that we collected a lot of different factors other than trustability score, and then apply fuzzy AHP. So AHP is multi-criteria decision-making process, which is analytical hierarchical process, AHP. And in fact, you can find a lot of detail about this in this paper, which is IEEE Internet of Things journal. And and it also gives me the weight. So it's basically if you have multiple factors and you want to combine that. So we applied this fuzzy AHP and then got this new score, which is uh, and those factors are basically telling me that what will impact my resiliency, what will impact my ability to keep supplying the power to below the primary and secondary, which is basically a secondary transformer. If you go to the next slide. So this just give you more formulation that how do we get this PNR, which is primary level nodal resiliency. I'll not go into detail of this with the time. So you can go to the next. And then comes the next level, which is the distribution system transformer, right? Which is substation. And then that's where the transformer is. So this is the upper level resiliency matrix, which depends on PNR, primary level nodal resiliency, and also IoT trustability score. And then we do the same thing, that then find out multiple different factors which will impact my ability to keep supplying power. And then using all those factors, we apply AHP again and get the resiliency score. So if you click next again, and then so this is the formula for DSR, which is distribution system resiliency. Again, by combining all of these different factors together. You can click next. So finally, some results. This is what we wanted to see, that if I do attack, my resiliency should go down. And this is what you see exactly in this figure. So anytime resiliency is going down, it is caused by one of the attack. Either it's a different kind, like start suspicious event, or it's a malicious event. You will see going down, and if it's a short one, then resiliency will come back. So this is what's shown here. If you go to next. So finally, we got this resiliency metric application, which is giving me and analyzing the first at the IoT level, then at the secondary transformer level, and then finally distribution system substation. And I can use it to decide that where to invest my money, so my resiliency is increasing, either for operation or for planning. And then even after the event, a cyber attack has happened, how to restore my system. So I can use this metric in multiple different ways. If you go to the next. So now the next one was electric vehicle. So I had actually one of the students from IIT Kanpur. She came to me just a few months before she was here, and then she worked on how do I use my electric vehicle to help with the restoration of services. And then because I was working with MIT, so we got the data from there, from Boston and Cambridge, and then we mapped all of these, right? So first thing is that when we are operating our grid, we are typically operating as economic, right? Because that's our goal, that to keep it most economic. But when the event happen, like this cyber event or even the weather event, then we are switched to the resilient mode. And also I have an information layer, which is telling me that, you know, the power exchange between if EV is feeding back or EV is being charged, and all the other information which is coming from, like parking lot, that where it is, transportation network. So all of these together will give me enough information to assess resiliency. So we go to next. So we basically took that Boston, Cambridge area and converted to electric grid and also transportation network. Next one. And then we just wrote a bunch of equations. So in fact, the equation was so large that it was, we wrote a paper which is in review now, and 3 pages is just equation. Because now you're dealing with transportation, you're dealing with electrical, you're dealing with cyber, and you're dealing with different two modes, right? So a lot of constraint and EV and different modes. So we go to next. So basically what's happening here is that integrated power and transportation network in resilient mode and then EV parking. And we are doing it in different mode. So step one is basically resiliency, where distribution system restoration is being done with solar and with wind. While in step two, we are using some of the DER and also publicly owned EV, which is like electric bus. And here we do have a lot of electric bus in a school. And then in third one, if someone owns a EV and they want to participate in demand response, we can also use that. So next one. So this one shows the whole process, and finally getting the results, that where to put the EV and routing. Okay, so we can go to the next one. So now the third one is that how to use test bed, right? So we had a two test bed. Yeah, next one. Yeah, so this one is not coming good, but for some reason. But basically, it's showing the two test bed. One is electromagnetic test bed, which is with RTDS, real-time digital simulator, and NS3, and the other one is Mininet and Python Rapid with electromechanical simulator, which is OpenDSS. So next one. And then we expanded that because, if you remember that I talked about that 95% of a cyber attack happened because of human mistakes. So we also have a control center where we have a human operator, and we can actually measure how stressed they are with the skin response. And we basically collaborate with cognitive scientists, and we can also track their eyes when you're looking at the screen. So if you go to next. So this one is just showing the Splunk, which is for the cyber monitoring. And next slide. And this one is for humans. So this, if once they put this eyeglasses, I can see that where they are looking at. And then there is also this, like I said, that there is skin response, which is on the side, where I can measure that how stressed they are while making a decision. So next one. So this one shows you the heat map that I can figure out that where they are looking at exactly. So if you see the red, that's where they are looking more often. And this has to be window, because I have to get the 5 minute of data, that what information they are looking to make decision. And because we have practiced it several times, so I know that where they should look at to make a decision. Next one. Yeah, so next. So finally, just to end that, I talked about a lot of different things: cyber, physical, and human. So grid is not only physical system, that typically we learn, but because of so much integration of digital devices and with human grid operator, it's basically cyber physical human, not only in terms of operation, but also in terms of user. So we, as a user of power with our own IoT devices, have few things which is very important and will impact the grid operation. And then there is a IoT based DERs and other devices which of course leads to some impact. It offers flexibility of operation, but also brings vulnerabilities. Only thing we can do is that by learning from data, and that means that we need more sensor. These kind of metrics is very useful, like trustability score, PNR, and display system resiliency metrics, because it helps me to operate, plan, and also restore the power in a prioritized way to make it more resilient. So we basically develop this metric. That's what I talked about, which is scalable, and it can of course help with increasing the resilience of the power grid. Test bed is very important because we cannot do experiment on the real system with with all these things. And with the test bed, we can not only validate but also use that for training. So next. Yeah. So with that, thanks again, and again, it's my pleasure to participate here. And the one is showing that you should not be on the list of the attacker. So make sure that you make your password and everything secure. So I'll be ready to take some question if there is any.
Thank you, Anurag sir. So, participant, if you have any specific query, you can send it on in chat box. If any specific query, Astosh, is Tirsa is with us or she is not available? Sir, the simulator which you have used, it is the real-time simulator, RTDS or some other.
Yeah. So we have RTDS. We also have a Typhoon. So those two
Typhoon
are real
Hill.
time. Yeah.
Yes.
So those two are
Okay.
real time, and then we also have OpenDSS, which is, and GridLabD, which is not a real time, but more scalable. Larger system can be done there.
Okay. At HBTI, we have Opel RT, sir.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. So I have that at because I also work at PNL and WSU. So there I have Opal RT at both the places.
Yes. It's really very nice and informative session. I don't think that either they have the query, but as they are might be they are hesitating to ask, as you have already shared your email ID. So definitely, if they have any query, they will definitely talk to you and ask their query. I hope Mr. Yugal would be there.
Yuval is
Yes, sir. I'm there.
So Yugal, this is end of the
So,
session from
so
Anurag sir.
thank you, sir. That was really a very interesting session. And now, as we are near the conclusion of our webinar, it's my privilege to express our gratitude to all those who have made this gathering possible. So, for vote of thanks, I would like to call our student branch chair, respected Mr. Yugal Kumar Jain, sir. Sir, please.
Good evening, everyone. Am I visible, audible?
Yes, yes.
On the behalf of IEEE Student Branch HBTU, I extend my heartfelt thanks to each and every one of you for making this webinar successful. First and foremost, our deepest appreciation goes to our esteemed speaker who generously shared their knowledge, insights, and expertise. Your presentation was not only informative but also inspiring, leaving a lasting impact on all of us. Thank you, sir, for coming. Anurag, sir.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Sir, in future, if you will get a chance to come India, sir, please visit our campus, sir. We will plan an offline event with you, sir.
Sure, sure.
Thank you, sir. And secondly, I want to thank Professor Dr. C.N. Singh, sir, Head of Department Electrical Engineering, for granting us permission to conduct this exciting event. Thank you, sir.
It's my pleasure.
A special word of thanks to the organizing team members, Akash Paliwal, Secretary, respected Mr. Asutosh, sir, Chair, IEEE Student Branch Chapter, Power Electronic Society, and Shweta, Treasurer, Kanika Pandey, Secretary, and Anushesh Pandey, Vice Chair. Thank you all of you for this is a very big, nice team, and they are doing work very dedicatedly. Without them, this event can't be possible. So thank you all of you,
Thank you,
and a
sir.
big and a big thanks to Professor Dr. Sanjeev Kumar Saxena, sir, Counselor IEEE Student Branch and Faculty Advisor, Power Electronic Society HBTU Kanpur, without whom this would not have been possible. Thank you, sir, for guiding and motivating us at every single step possible. Thank you, sir. Uh, let's conclude this webinar once again. Thank you to everyone involved, and we hope to see you in future endeavors. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Anurag Saab.
Thank you so much.
I hope together we collaborate and do something for your alma mater as well as my Rojgar, Rojgar and for our student. So
Sure,
नमस्कार
sure.
साहब.
Yeah.
और मैं बहुत ही
Uh,
आपका शुक्रगुजार हूँ जो इतना अर्ली मॉर्निंग मेरे ख्याल से उस समय 8:30 या 9 o'clock होगा वहां पर और आपने हम लोगों के लिए समय निकाला साहब. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. गुड मॉर्निंग टू यू एंड गुड
sir,
नाइट टू आवर. यस
Anurag, sir,
मिस्टर.
Thank you, sir, for sparing your for valuable time in the early morning. And
Sure. Yeah.
I invite
sir,
you at the HBD Kanpur if you visit India. Uh,
Yeah. Next time I'll come. I'll
please
keep you
do visit
updated.
to your alma mater,
Yeah.
and
Sure.
certainly there is you'll see a lot of changes. So you
Always good to know.
92
Yeah.
batch pass out, you sir.
Yes.
Sir, Anurag, sir, how it feels after interacting with your juniors, college juniors, sir?
Yeah. It's
Uh,
always good.
Adit, I think students wish to interact with Anurag sir, so it would be great if you turn off the live session so that it should not go on air.
Okay, sir.
You just stop the recording as well as the live streaming,
Sure, sir.
so we can have informal